Good afternoon. You are welcome to Business and Finance here on Echo Television International. In a bid to curb FX crisis, we have the Central Bank of Nigeria taking several measures, and one of which is recapitalizing the BDCs. That is, there will be new guidelines for the BDCs to operate in Nigeria. And a lot have been put in place, and we are going to look at what this might mean for BDCs and what it might mean for our foreign exchange in the long run and also in the short run. Now, this recapitalization means that the BDCs have to reapply for license. Also, street trading have been prohibited, has become outlawed now. And then also we are seeing that the Central Bank of Nigeria is planning and re-strategizing to boost diaspora remittances so that we would have more foreign exchange inflow and of course a boost in our foreign exchange. Now, we have over 1,588 recognized BTC operators with 35 million naira capital. That is low compared to the deposit money banks. And then there is a need for this recapitalization. Now, let's see what it means for Tier 1 BDCs and Tier 2 BDCs. So now all Tier 1 BDCs are to raise 2 billion naira minimum capital, while Tier 2 BDCs are to up their minimum capital to 500 million naira. Now, this policy shift is a part of reforms to reposition the BDC subsector to properly play its role in the nation's foreign exchange market. Now, these guidelines were issued following the conclusion of stakeholders' consultation and in the exercise of the powers conferred on the CBN by Section 56 of the Banks and Other Financial Institution Act. We're looking at the BOFIA of 2020. So yes, we are having Tier 1 BDCs at 2 billion minimum and then Tier 2 at 500 million naira. Presently is 35 million, and if you would agree with me, looking at the revamp that the Central Bank of Nigeria is going about, looking at what it means for Tier 1 banks when it comes to recapitalization for those with international and local transaction, and then when it comes to microfinance bank, you would agree that the BDCs are operating at a lower capital. And now the Central Bank of Nigeria have seen that they need to also increase their minimum. And we are seeing 2 billion for Tier 1 BDCs and then 500 million naira for Tier 2 BDCs. Now, there's street trading of Forex going on in major cities like Abuja and Lagos. And the Central Bank of Nigeria is saying that have to stop. That is for the BDCs that allow for such trading to take place. It is no longer accepted. It is prohibited. It is outlawed. Therefore, there will be penalties for it. In as much as the measures are being put in place, what will be the punishment? How is it going to affect how these BDCs operate, as we know that it is important for there to be the availability of more transactions, because we are looking at the mechanism that have put in place where we know that the Bureau change operators at the moment have certain percentage by the Central Bank of Nigeria that they cannot go above in exchange when it comes to dealing with businesses or individuals directly. Now, with the street trading now being outlawed, it means that more of that trading cannot happen, as it has been affecting that it has played a major role in scarcity of currency in the past, and then it wouldn't happen anymore. For every transaction, you have to go to these BDCs directly. No more street trading. Now, also the CBN is ordering the BDCs to reapply for their license. We know that there are 1,588 recognized BDCs. Now, there is need for reapplication for their license. Is to be able, when there is recapitalization, it's not only about the capital base that the bank have. It also has to do with the strength of a bank, for example, and also what it has, that is probably customers and all of that. And this is going to be applicable to the BDCs, that they need to reapply. The Central Bank of Nigeria need to be sure of its numbers, need to be sure of the BDCs that they will be moving on with ahead in the future. Now, the central bank also is focused on boosting diaspora remittances, and recently 14 new international money transfer operators have been given license to operate. Now, this means that there will be competition, there will be efficiency. Above all, more licensed operators mean more access to foreign transactions and transfer. Now, this will boost remittances because the Central Bank of Nigeria is seeing that there is a need for revenue. Now, let's not forget that when it comes to foreign remittances, it's majorly for revenue, not for boosting our exchange rate and other monetary policies. Is majorly for revenue. So now the Central Bank of Nigeria is saying we need to increase foreign transfers, and therefore we're giving more license to new operators, so that there will be access, there will be competition, and above all, there will be more revenue generated from diaspora remittances. And this is going to be taken more seriously in the year 2024, as the goal is to see more revenue generated from diaspora remittances. This is one of the goals of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the Central Bank Governor Cardoso have made it clear that in the year 2024, there will be no joking with diaspora remittances. Now, just from the recently concluded MPC meeting, we have the MPR at a new high of 26.25%. It was at 24.75% in the previous meeting. Now, this is the third time that the MPR is being increased consecutively in the year 2024. And this, the Central Bank of Nigeria have made it clear that is as a result, that the major factor behind this is as a result of food inflation, and we are seeing a 150 base point increase. The previous meeting was over 200 base point, and now we are seeing over 150 base point. Now let's look at the communique from the Central Bank of Nigeria after the MPC meeting, specifically for the NPR, what it will be for the month of May. Now, quickly, we have monetary policy rate hike to 26.25%. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria held its 295th meeting on the 20th and 21st of May 2024 to review recent economic and financial development and assess risks to the outlook. Now, these are the major decisions that were taken at the MPC. Raise the MPR by 150 base points to 26.25% from 24.75%. Retain the asymmetric corridor around the MPR to plus 100 over minus 300 base points. Retain the cash reserve ratio of deposit money banks at 45%. Retain the liquidity ratio to 30%. Now, the consideration, the key focus of the MPC at this meeting remains to achieve price stability by effectively using tools available to the monetary authority to rein in inflation. Members observed that while year-on-year headline inflation in April 2024 rose moderately, the month-on-month measures of headline, food, and core all declined significantly. This follows a decline month-on-month of headline and food measures in March 2024, suggesting that the recent tight monetary policy stance of the bank is beginning to yield the desired outcomes. So the CBN is seeing that their tight monetary policy is beginning to yield some outcome, as the month-on-month measures of the headline, food, and core have declined significantly. That is the percentage in which it has grown rapidly. From we saw the headline inflation at 33%, and then food inflation way higher than that. So yes, they are seeing that they're beginning to see dividend of their tight monetary policy, and then eventually we will see what that will mean for our economy, what it means for inflation, what it's going to mean for the standard of living in the country, and then subsequently if it will improve the value of our currency. Now moving on. Right. Moving on to the next thing in place, that is the UBA have declared 607.69 billion naira. This is payment after tax. Now, the gross earning or revenue for the year 2023 for the bank, that is the United Bank of Africa, was 2.08 trillion naira. However, the profit after tax was 607.69 billion naira. Now, that is before tax. They were tax surged to 277.2% to 757.68 billion, asserting its leading position within the financial sector. So when you do your minus, you see how this has affected the bank and why the revenue after tax was at 607 billion, despite a total gross revenue of 2.80 trillion naira. Now, the bank group managing director have come out to clearly state the reasons behind this massive increase in revenue, and therefore this impressive financial outcome were propelled by a significant increase in net interest income due to combination of a strong expansion in the loan portfolio, higher net interest margins, and a sustainable contribution from foreign exchange operators. So we are seeing loan portfolio playing a key role. We are seeing net interest. We are seeing substantial contribution from foreign exchange operators. Now the African Development Bank, seeing the potential in Africa, saw the need to invest some money into infrastructural development, and we are looking at $1.44 billion to support infrastructure development in Africa. And Nigeria is definitely a beneficiary of this. So far, so good. Now, this is to develop energy, power, transport, water, and sanitation infrastructure in Nigeria. The bank's Nigeria Country Development Director, I take that again, the bank's Nigeria Country Department Director disclosed this during a summit. The event was attended by local and foreign investors, representative of the private sector, and senior government officials. Acknowledging the resonance of the summit theme against the backdrop of turbulence in the global economy, we have Barrow noted that Nasarawa State and indeed Nigeria face a huge infrastructure deficit inhibiting the country's effort to diversify its non-oil production and achieve international competitiveness for export. Now, according to the 2020 National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, Nigeria requires between 2020 and 2043 total infrastructure investment estimated at 2.3 trillion naira to raise its infrastructure stock to the international benchmark of 70% of GDP. The energy sector alone will require $759 billion, while the transport sector needs $575 billion. To address this problem, the African Development Bank is supporting the federal and state government to improve the national and state infrastructure. Now, as of April 2024, 35% of the bank's active portfolio, valued at 1.44 billion, is supporting infrastructure development in Nigeria. Now, Barrow said in a speech he read on behalf of the group president, that is Adesina, to achieve industrial renaissance in Nasarawa State and Nigeria must accelerate domestic resource mobilization, boost agricultural sector productivity, develop value chains and supportive infrastructure, enhance the risk investment, prioritize national resource value addition and beneficiation. And we have strengthened institutional capacity and bridge the skill mismatch to enhance youth employability. So looking at the potential, the diverse potential that Nigeria have out of the non-oil sector, there is a need to develop this infrastructure around other sector, and the major goal is employability, that is working towards reducing the unemployment rate in Africa. Now we have our ministers, our Minister of State Petroleum, talking about how the investment or underinvestment is the problem and the vital reason affecting our oil production in the country. Now, on May 14, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries said Nigeria's average daily crude oil production rose to 1.28 million barrels per day. That is as at April. This is below the 1.78 million barrel per day estimate adopted in the 2024 budget by President Bola Tinubu, and the production quota of 1.5 million barrel per day set for the country by OPEC in 2024. Although on May 29, Mele Kyari, Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, said the country's oil production volume is close to 1.7 million barrels per day. According to Kyari, Nigeria has the potential to produce 2 million barrels per day, but the country is unable due to pipeline vandalism and oil theft. So not only are we struggling with underinvestment, but also vandalism and theft is affecting our oil production. Now, he said on April 17, 2022, Nigeria's production rose to 2.2 million barrels per day because the COVID-19 period and lockdown forced oil thieves and pipeline vandals to shut down their illegal operations and go to sleep. So if during lockdown, during COVID, we were able to achieve 2.2 million barrels per day of crude oil output, then we know that oil vandalism, pipeline vandalism, and oil theft has taken a chunk of our output and our resource. Now, also on May, the Pobiri Minister of State of Petroleum Resource asked the United Arab Emirates to invest in Nigeria oil and gas pipeline infrastructure. So we need more investment to fight oil theft, to fight pipeline vandalism. We also need more infrastructure. We need more oil and gas pipeline. We also need to go on more oil exploration. We need to go on to have more oil wells. We have seen that top countries like Shell are living they are not living as per no more oil output and production and all of that, but we've seen a good number of multinationals living, and Shell is inclusive in this list. So we need more oil exploration, we need more oil wells, we need more oil marketers, producers rather, to come in and be part of this oil exploration, be part of the output, be part of the oil market in Nigeria. And then eventually we will be able to see our output going back to where it is. So we need to invest in security, we need to invest in oil exploration, we need to invest in oil drilling, we need to invest in having more and more security for our oil so that we won't be losing our production to vandals and oil thieves. And this is how far I am going today on business and finance. Please keep a date with me next time. Goodbye.